When we broke the Labour leak story here at Novara in 2020, it was a landmark moment. It revealed a shocking level of hostility inside Labour HQ to Jeremy Corbyn's leadership, and also demonstrated several failures in dealing with anti-Semitism complaints before Jenny Formby became General Secretary in 2018. There were two big court cases surrounding the leaking of that report, but one of those cases has now been spectacularly dropped. 9 people who were suing the party for failing to protect their data have now dropped their invasion of privacy lawsuit over the leak. The 9 people were all named in that leaked report as having made anti-Semitism complaints against the party, and it's not clear if they've dropped their case after reaching a settlement with the party or if something else has happened. Anyway, in April, 7 of the 9 complainants were named by the High Court after they failed to win an order granting them anonymity. All but one of the named complainants were involved with the group Labour Against Anti-Semitism, LAS. That was an organisation responsible for a huge number of anti-Semitism complaints against Labour during the Corbyn years. They include its former chair, Ewan Phillips, as well as members Emma Picken and Denny Taylor. I should say that neither Mr. Phillips nor Ms. Picken are Jewish. Also named were Mina Kupferman, Colin Appleby and Julie Cattle, who were publicly affiliated with the group. Another named was Andrew Burridge, who had no public connection to the group. At the time, a researcher with knowledge of the case told Novara Media this: "It's very strange that people who have publicly stated they have submitted complaints or that they were reporting on Labour Against Anti-Semitism submitting complaints would be upset about this becoming known via the leaked report." In a connected, ongoing case, Labour is suing 5 former staffers after accusing them of leaking the report. That's despite the fact that the Information Commissioner's Office found insufficient evidence of their involvement to prosecute. The Guardian reports this: "The Guardian understands that development does not affect the party's claim against the former staffers, who include Corbyn's former Chief of Staff, Kerry Murphy, and his former Director of Communications, Seamus Milne, although they are hoping the development will prompt Labour to reconsider. The other staffers being sued by Labour are Georgie Robertson, Laura Murray, and Harry Hayball." We should say all deny any involvement in the leak. One source close to the case told Novara Media that it being dropped made the second case also being dropped as more likely. But whether it is or not will depend on, in their words, if the party can see sense on the issue and think rationally rather than factionally. These legal wrangles have proved hugely costly for the Labour Party. Estimates put the bill for the case against the 5 staffers at around £500,000 so far. Last month, it was ordered to pay £90,000 towards Kerry Murphy's costs, and it paid nearly £100,000 towards the legal costs of the staffers. But it was also ordered to pay over £100,000 towards the cost of these 7 complainants whose anonymity case failed. If both cases had continued, estimates put the final bill to the Labour Party at up to £4 million. In response to the withdrawal of the privacy case, a Labour spokesperson said this: "We are grateful to have had the opportunity to have met members of Labour Against Anti-Semitism to discuss their concerns and to thank them for all their work in challenging anti-Semitism. We are pleased to be able to move forward in a positive manner. The Labour Party is committed to continue its work on combating anti-Semitism." They're so committed, they are far more likely to suspend and expel members if they're Jewish. Grace, it looks like Labour have settled this particular dispute. Do you think it just kicked in that, look, we're ahead in the polls, we don't want a plethora of court cases around the time of the next general election, we'd rather lose some money now rather than lose some money later, or even worse, lose a case and look deeply unserious?
I think it was clear that a lot of this, if not all of it, was factionally motivated, particularly those cases against the 5 staffers. And now Keir Starmer realises that he doesn't particularly stand to benefit from continuing these cases, particularly given how costly they are. And also given that as long as there's, media attention around it, it will be directed towards the Labour Party in general and to him in general, rather than, against Corbyn, who actually now people see isn't even part of the Labour Party. So it's, not going to benefit him factually. He's already controlling every lever of power that he could possibly want to have within the party. He's expelling everyone left, right and centre who doesn't completely and utterly follow down to the line everything that he says that they should be saying. He is becoming he's basically become a kind of despot, a completely totalitarian figure within the party. So he probably thinks, oh, well, there's not much point continuing with this now. given that I've basically gotten everything that I want.
The despotism point is so fascinating, Grace, because I'm sure as some people watching this, listening later on, are already aware, Novara has a Downstream out with Rory Stewart next Sunday. Tory Rory, or maybe not. He said some very interesting things in that interview, and you can catch all those at 6 p.m. on Sunday. But what we trailed with was his comments about, about Mr. Corbyn and his losing the whip from Keir Starmer, how Keir Starmer is really a megalomaniac, control freak. I think his words were micromanagement across the party by 3, 4, 5 people at Westminster. I broadly agree with that. And I think you're right. I think they've got such control over the party now. I think they've expelled so many people. I think they have their way to such an unprecedented extent, really, even more than Blair. They probably realised that this is a factional tool to destroy their enemies. Wasn't quite working, but also it's better to cut your losses because so much in other places with regards to that strategy is and has really revealing, I think, that people who claim to be good with money, we're going to be so good for the taxpayer, we're going to spend your money so well, we're willing to throw millions of pounds at potentially losing a case because of the triviality of factional rivalries in the Labour Party. I think that says something. You know, I've raised before the fact that Rachel Reeves, so keen to emphasise how prudent she is, failed to pay back her credit card debts a few years ago as a Labour MP. I think that stuff speaks of volumes. You should always watch what politicians do rather than what they say.